Yeah.
Oh, well. Because last time we were live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. That's okay.
Although we went live on YouTube with more followers and not one person said hi. And we've been live on Twitch a couple times and we actually get highs.
Well, yeah.
But I'm going live underneath the art section, not like entertainment, which is what I did on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean,
it's one thing when I'm drawing
mm-hmm.
and we do some then there's art, but then when we're just talking, it's like,
right.
I feel bad sometimes.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. When I go searching on, Spotify or YouTube or whatever, I usually search words like stories because that's what entertains me is short stories and stuff like that. But it's amazing, when I do those searches, I don't find shit.
Right.
There is not very many story formatted podcasts out there. I told you about one about 3 podcasts ago, which was Mr. Baldwin, and he's a ex-Navy SEAL who just likes to read weird true stories.
Where actually people would post little fan fiction stuff, and it was on DeviantArt.
Yeah, I mean,
there's actually quite a bit of that.
There was a couple of websites that was dedicated to that, but the thing is, coming from the podcast world, I would rather listen to somebody read it than to actually go through and read it myself.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Oh yeah. I'm such a slow reader.
Well.
And even when I get up to speed after reading a lot,
mm-hmm.
I'm still slow.
Right.
Like my wife I can be having read quite a few books in a row.
Right.
And then she'll not have read anything, pick up a book, and we could read the same page and she'll finish easily way before me.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm in rhythm. So I'd rather sit back and listen to an audiobook. But you know what's crazy? What I've been finding is when I was listening to them a lot was when I was doing those Shatteredtime pages back in the day.
Right.
And I could just turn it on and then draw. But now I feel like I need to stream.
Yeah.
For the audience, right? To build up our brand.
Right.
And that's all copyrighted material.
Yeah.
Which then mutes the whole thing. And then people are just watching me draw in dead silence, which, it's fine, but I guess, I don't know, it's just... there's a couple... I'll come on and do just a Twitch stream and listen to regular music, because, royalty-free music isn't exactly always the greatest.
Right.
Although one of my all-time favorite albums is a royalty-free. But that's just because it was the guy's first album, and he was able to upload it to a thing called Ectoplasm for electronic music, and it's awesome.
Okay.
Ink Step.
Well, welcome again to our podcast. I'm up to chapter 9 for y'all that are actually keeping track of this stuff. Did we ever put together a playlist on the YouTube for the chapter things?
Oh, I did. I just haven't. I guess I didn't go through and
okay. Well,
put them all together.
For those who we'll have to go through and we'll have to put a playlist together, and we might even just edit out everything that's not the story and just put them together, bam, 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 back to back. But anyway,
yeah, I think I want to do that, but I also need to have it listed out what is what.
Right. Let's see here. Should we talk about anything, or should I just start reading, or what?
I don't know. What should we talk about? Well,
today is the inauguration.
Yeah, but everybody's probably talking about that.
Yeah, everybody is talking about that.
And I want to keep in good spirits.
I was listening to Elijah Schaefer before I came in.
Were you?
Yeah, it's amazing. I will still say that, in my opinion, he's still one of the best journalists out there, and he is just getting shit all over.
Oh yeah, they're gonna come for him.
Oh, they have. They've demonetized like everything, and he's an honest to God paper journalist that works for the Blaze. You know, he gets paid to go out there in harm's way and to get these stories. And let's be precise and exact. So far, he's brought us the stories of Kyle Rittenhouse. He was there. Let's see here. He went to every one of the riots and takeovers of cities. You know, I guess that's probably
those were mostly peaceful.
Yeah, those were mostly peaceful protests that were all on fire. and you know, I mean, I guess that's really the reason they need to shut him up. Oh, and by the way, he was there when they stormed the Capitol, and you know, he witnessed the whole thing. And one of the things that he did is he put together a timeline where when Trump was giving this speech, 20 minutes before it was over, they were already storming.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the crowd that Trump was talking to that did it initially.
Right.
Anyway.
Well, that kid from here.
But it's like it's just crazy to me, you know, that a journalist who does his job, maybe I guess it's because he does his job too well that they want to silence him, I guess.
No, it's just because he's pointing out their crap.
Right.
I mean,
well, anyway, I'll start reading. We'll get into that stuff, you know. Anyway, Chapter 9, Reconstruction. The group continues on in silence. Lucius stares at the floor as he walks, unwilling to gaze into anyone's eyes.
Oh,
what?
Maybe you do a recap
Of what happened before?
Oh, maybe not.
Nah.
All right.
I mean, if they heard it, hopefully they did. Okay. The group continues on in silence as Lucius stares at the floor as he walks, unwilling to gaze into anyone's eyes for fear they will say what he is thinking. All this is my fault. With each footstep forward, vivid images of death slide through his mind. With each image, the thought repeats, all this is my fault. His legs weaken and shake as he tries to keep pace with the others. I never should have come here. This is not my world. I don't belong here. Tears roll from his eyes, and his breathing becomes shaky and heavy. His heart pounds as he remembers running through the trees, hell in his face, and the giant cat biting into his shoulder. I need to get out of here. The floor in front of him blurs momentarily. He blinks, trying to focus, but the floor has begun to rotate around him. From the pit of his stomach, a weakness spreads through his body, causing his limbs to numb. He stumbles forward, falling to his knees. He opens his mouth to call for help, but instead of words, he vomits. I don't think I should be here. I don't think I should learn magic. Lucius announces, staring blankly at the pile of bile on the floor in front of him. Jessie places her hand on his shoulder and kneels down next to him. I know how scary this is, Lucius. I understand if you want to go back home. But we all believe in this. We believe what we are doing. We are doing the right thing. You didn't kill those people. You are a welcome addition to our family. We are all like you. We don't fit in. But like you, we want to make the world a better place. We are all ready to die to make this world better. Lucius hugs Jessie tightly. And relieved to hear she is not upset, and speaking through a river of tears replies, I don't want to leave. I just don't want to be the cause of so much pain. You aren't the cause. The Wood Watchers are, Mikno states. Yeah, kid, the Wood Watchers are your enemy. Let's not waste any more time on self-pity, Let's focus on revenge, Paul says, waving his blood-caked sword. Lucius feels as though he will vomit again as he stares at Paul's sword. His skin becomes pale again as he sways uneasily on his knees. Jesse steadies his body as a light breeze begins to blow on his face. Lucius, I know you are frightened, and I know you need some time, but I'm afraid we have none. We need to get to the king and tell him what has happened. The breeze feels good against his sweaty face, and it helps calm his stomach. I don't think I can. Just go. I'll hide here in the caves. It's not safe here, Lucius. If we make it to the castle, we will be safe. You can decide then whether you want to stay or not. It's funny, as I'm reading some of this stuff, the way that I like to write is I usually write dialogue first, and then I go back and I fill in everything, the he said, she said stuff. So there's a lot of sentences that I find that you can't even, like that last sentence, it's not safe here, Lucius. If we make it to the castle, we will be safe. You can decide whether you want to stay or not. I have no idea who said that. Okay, let's go. I mean, that could have been Jesse, that could have been Mickno, who knows. Anyway.
I assumed it was either Jesse or Mickno because they were the ones who were talking.
Right, and Paul was there too. So, yeah.
Paul was there, but he didn't seem like he was still in the conversation.
No, he just wants to kill people.
Yeah, he was waving his sword.
So anyway, yeah. King Markon angrily paces back and forth across the fur rugs in his throne room as he is told about the Woodwatchers' attack. The sun streaming in through the high windows reflect off his ruffled white shirt, giving him a soft glow, which matches the glow of anger in his face. You will stay here tonight, and in the morning an army will escort you back to your home. An attack on the king's people is a declaration of war. We shall give them a war, he declares. Sire, I think the children, especially Lucius, should stay here for protection, Mickno declares. Lucius, hearing his name in the sentence, is able to decipher the meaning. I don't want to stay here. I'm staying with you. Mickno, surprised by the fact that he can understand what was said, replies, I'm sorry, Lucius. You're right. You can... I'm sorry, Lucius. You're right. You can stay with us. I apologize. I have much to prepare. Kindle will be here shortly to lead you to your rooms, the king says as he exits the room. Kindle enters the room and leads everyone out. As they walk the hallway of the castle, Mickno explains to him all that has happened, while Kindle listens in awe. Well, I guess Lucius will have a much better chance of attending school now, Kindle divulges when Mickno finishes. Yes, that is true, but I believe the school will be the next target for the Woodwatchers. It is the next logical target. They'll do anything to stop us, Mickno explains. That would be crazy. Do you really believe that they're that crazy? I think they will try again to attack the boy. I will protect the boy with my life, Oligri says, interrupting the conversation as she lumbers behind them. I will be his guardian. You aren't a warrior, Kindle states matter-of-factly. Oligri stares at Kindle. Lucius is almost sure he can see steam rise off her head. She lunges at Kindle, and Paul and Jesse grab her around her outstretched arms to hold her back. Kindle keeps walking, completely unaware of Oligri's rage, but Mickno responds. That will be a perfect job for you, Oligri. Thank you, he says, trying to calm her down and diffuse the situation. I will see you in the morning, Kindle says as he shows everyone to his or her room. Jesse, Lucius, Izzy, and Mickno all stay in a room together. The next morning, the king's armies are gathered in front of the castle. A group of 7 elven warriors are mounted on centaurs, ready to escort Jesse's group back to the tavern. Lucius stares open-mouthed at the imposing-looking warriors. The centaurs scoff and growl as Lucius passes by to reach his horse. He pauses, having to look up to see the centaur's face, sunlight glinting off their metal plating. Lucius's eyes come to rest on the face of one of the centaur warriors, who stares back at him unapprovingly before snapping down his visor to his helmet. The sound of his visor snapping shut is quickly followed by 6 other snaps as the centaurs close their visors. Lucius, confused by the reaction of the centaurs, looks to McNo inquisitively. McNo shakes his head and shuffles Lucius quickly towards the horses. Jesse, McNo, and Lucius mount their horses, and Olegry climbs clumsily onto a large yak. Paul, Stelikenstern, Zinj, Hadassah, Izzy, and Stelena gather around to say goodbye. "Take care of my daughter," Jesse says to Paul. "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing," Paul replies. "They aren't coming?" Lucius asks. "No, they will stay here so we can travel faster. They've seen enough travel," McNo declares. "Are you sure you don't want to stay?" No, I'll stay with you and Jesse," Lucius answers. "Don't worry, we'll be a day behind you," Paul says. The 7 mounted centaur warriors lead the way into the woods. "What was that? Why did the centaurs seem to hate me?" Lucius asks in a hushed voice. McNo smiles and answers, "I think they are disappointed." Lucius's face scrunches even more with confusion. They grew up fearing and respecting humans. Many centaurs were killed by them. "Well, what does that have to do with me?" Lucius replies. "Well, Lucius, you don't match the stories they heard when they were growing up. You are a contradiction to every story they have heard." "So, well, people hold tightly to their beliefs and are uncomfortable when faced with a challenge to their beliefs. The group doesn't stop to camp." That needs to be fixed right there. Sorry. Editing in process. The group doesn't stop to camp, traveling through the night, arriving at the other side of the woods at the break of dawn. Smoke can be seen in the distance, coming from where the tavern is located. As the party breaks the edge of the woods, Jesse inhales sharply, surveying the scene. All that remains of the tavern is the wooden foundation. The area littered with old lumber and that used to be its walls. Lucius follows the smoke trail to its origin, billowing out of Jesse's house. The white marble is stained black with the soot around the windows and door openings. Fenced areas, which at one time held sheep, pigs, and horses, are destroyed, and many of the animals lay partially eaten in the morning sun. "Looks like they have removed their dead," McNo declares to the chief elven guard, pointing at the several bloody spots on the ground. The group circles the area on their horses, once checking the woods and the tunnels for any sign of wood watchers. The elven guard tower is still standing, seemingly untouched by the wood watchers. The wall McNo and Mac built in the tunnel is still in place, but it is covered with thousands of claw marks. When sure the area is safe, McNo dismounts his horse and sinks the wall back into the ground. McNo and Jesse search the rubble of the tavern, looking for anything not broken or savable. Jesse's breath becomes shallow and quick as she turns boards over. "They were thorough," Jesse says, trying to smile and laugh, but choking on a lump in her throat. "They have deliberately broken everything they could find," she says, kicking a board angrily to one side and finding a bloody face staring up at her from underneath it. Jesse screams, jumping back from the body. After a deep breath, she hollers, "I found Nick." The elven soldiers bury their comrade as Jesse and Micno continue searching the rubble. Everything is destroyed. Have nothing at all, Jesse declares. We're still alive. It can be rebuilt. We will make a new tavern, Micno states. What about my house? All of my belongings. All of my clothing is gone, Jesse says, staring at the smoldering home. I'm not saying it will be easy, but we will continue. We have to be as brave as Lucius. Look at him. He came here leaving his world behind. We have to be brave for him, Micno says, pointing to Lucius. Lucius, knowing the conversation is about him, asks, What? Oh, I'm sorry, Lucius. We were talking about the future. We were saying how great the new tavern will be, Jesse says, choking back her tears. Lucius knows she's lying, having heard his name repeatedly in this conversation, but decides it would be better to give Jesse a chance to settle herself. Yeah, I think it will be great. We can make a whole new look, he replies. After Nick's funeral, the elven army continues their search of the woods, even though Micno said it would be a waste of time. They look for any sign of the wood watchers' tracks, campsites, excrement, anything that will reveal their whereabouts. Any animals in the area looking out of place are killed, but none transform into wood watchers. The soldiers sweep the woods from one side of the woods to the other as they head back towards the castle. When they arrive several days later, they are ordered to continue patrolling the woods till the wood watchers are found. Paul, the dwarf twins, the dancers, and Izzy arrive the following day, and reconstruction begins on the tavern and Jesse's house. Her house is a little easier physically to rebuild, but emotionally it's rough for her. The contents of the house have been burned away, and she can never replace some of the old paintings, jewelry, or clothing she gathered from her travels when she was younger. The walls inside the home have been cleaned to remove the charring, but in 2 weeks the house is clean and ready to be redecorated. The tavern, a total loss, has to be rebuilt, and a more magnificent looking building is decided on. Jesse still wants the tavern to reflect other cultures, and decides once again on a human culture. The Asian culture is legendary for their architecture. Western architecture is built less for beauty and more for battle. Eastern buildings are both strong and beautiful, Jesse explains to Lucius as she shows him a drawing of the proposed building. Did you travel to Asia when you were younger? Lucius inquires. Jesse surveys the area, watching Olegri and the dwarves stack up the last of the wood and debris into separate piles. Is there any more usable lumber? She asks, shouting so loud she can be heard from any distance. Nah, this stuff's all broke, Olegri responds, sweeping her massive forearm across her forehead. Jesse nods her head to Olegri and turns her attention back to Lucius. Yes, I traveled there, but the connection between the Asian culture and the elves is much deeper. What do you mean? Our people and the humans of the Asian land shared the land as equals. There were no wars or bickering. We had many influences on their culture as they did on ours. We taught them how to control their spirit in battle and during their many civil wars. We taught them the fundamentals of magic. Therefore, they know how to use their internal magical energy. I thought elves never taught a human magic before. When we lived among their culture, we didn't really know the full potential of magic. We didn't know how to control the elements. In many ways, we taught each other. So why don't humans use magic? Why doesn't everyone use it? Lucius asked. The Asian culture closely guards their secrets from the rest of the world. they don't trust other cultures. It's their president, that's their prejudice, but who are we to tell them it's wrong? They will learn someday. Are there still elves in Asia? Oh yes. We still have quite a number of people there. They don't have to hide in their mountains either. The humans of that culture respect the elves. During an invasion by the Mongols, we helped them in battle. We didn't use our powers to harm the opposing fighters, but that would involve us into their war. But we did help them construct a great wall to block their advance. The building takes a month to complete. The structure itself is quick and easy, but since its design is so unique and intricate, the parts take time to manufacture. The tiles on the roof take 2 weeks, but when done, the tavern looks like an oriental palace. A 3-story structure with a tile roof, which has upturned corners. Each floor has its own roof, and the building looks like 3 houses stacked on top of each other. The first floor of the round building has enough room to hold 7 tables and a bar. The second floor has 5 rooms for the dancers to sleep in. The third floor is an extra room for private parties, and it also serves as an archery tower in times of battle. During the Reconstruction, Lucius continues his lessons with Hadassah, and her stories and gossip about the others continue as well. How did Zinj end up working here? Lucius asks as he practices his writing. I don't know the whole story, but I can tell you what I know. Zinj was born in the enslavement camps located deep underground in the Goblin Kingdom. Goblins raised halflings as working cattle, selling them amongst themselves or to other races. I've heard that any extra are used to feed dragons, Hadassah exclaims. You mean dragons exist? I've never seen one. I've heard stories from Paul that they live down deep in the earth near the goblins, and the goblins feed them halflings to keep them docile. I've even heard they are trying to domesticate them. Anyway, as I was saying, Zinj was born a slave. The goblin culture is rapidly expanding, and King Markon has allowed them free trade with the elves, and he has even allowed goblins to attend elemental school. The king believes, or rather he hopes, their culture will evolve with education. The goblin traders brought slaves with them as a gift to the king. The king accepted so not to insult the goblins. Several of those gifts, the halflings, still work at the castle. The king pays them, of course. The goblins also visited Jezi, and she took the same approach. She bought Zinj from the goblins and now pays her a salary. Why doesn't Zinj just leave? Sorry, just turning off my phone there. Why doesn't Zinj just leave? The halflings have grown in an environment of pain and punishment. If they find anyone who even remotely cares about them, they will stay. Jessie did offer her a choice of leaving, but she just didn't know where to go. Aren't there any free halflings? Paul told me of some living deep in the woods, far from the main road. They've started a whole new life. Who knows, someday we may start seeing more of them. I hope so. So what about Stelena? Lucius asks. Stelena. That's a sad story. In the dwarven culture, the men own women. Women are to obey. When a woman shows any sign of disobedience, they are usually killed. Which I guess is not too much different than living as a human. Hadassah says, smiling and shoving Lucius jovially as if it were the funniest thing she had ever heard. Lucius catches his balance and stares back at her, waiting for her to continue. She sighed deeply and with a slight smile continued. Marriages are arranged. Love has nothing to do with marriage among the dwarves. Stelena was married to a dwarven miner. She cooked and cleaned for him and the men who worked for him. One day she met a worker and they fell in love. Stelena's husband found them together and killed her lover on the spot. He took Stelena to the local advocate and she was given the traditional public trial. These trials are not so the accused can be defended. They are more so the public can get a chance to throw some stones. Literally. She was to be punished the usual way. She was to be placed naked in the public square, bent over a large piece of iron ore and tied between two poles so her legs were forced open and her arms spread. Most people would throw rocks or spit, but the really cruel men of the village would take turns raping her. The day she was scheduled to die, she welcomed death. Her husband wasn't through with his torture, though. He wanted her to live her life as a toy for the local men. He wanted the rapes to continue. How did she get away? Paul. He has close ties with the dwarves. Stellick and Stern like to visit their homeland occasionally, although I don't know why anyone would want to visit an underground cave with very little or no light. And Paul always goes along. Paul told Jesse about Stelena, and Jesse offered to bring her here. Stelena's husband agreed as long as Stelena continued her life as a whore. So she continues her punishment here. All the dwarven miners that come here still take time to go rape her. She will never leave and never has accepted her role. Lucius stares at Hadassah in shock and then forces out his next question. Why do you do this? Why are you here? Me? Well, I told you before, my story isn't very exciting. I grew up in a strict family, punished for the smallest offenses, and was always looking for a way to rebel against my parents. I fell in love with a boy, and it made my parents furious. They were even angrier when they found out that I was having sex before marriage. They forbid me to see the boy. I obeyed, but I started seeing other boys and found that I enjoyed being with men. My parents kicked me from my home, and I started my career. I moved around till I found a place that satisfied all my desires. This place offers me the strangest partners anywhere, Hadassah explains, moving closer to Lucius. I guess I'll have to wait till you get older then, and I will show you why I like my job. Lucius is too shocked to respond as Hadassah strokes his leg and upper thigh, acting like a person possessed. Then, as if someone slapped her to attention, she stops her advances and orders, "Continue your lessons," and she returns to her chair and allows Lucius to continue his writing. As the weeks turn to months, Lucius begins to speak Elven on a daily basis, and is able to speak to Zinj, Oligri, and Stelena. Although he wishes to help comfort them, he never talks about their personal life, afraid to reveal what he knows. As Lucius attends his daily chores as an employee of the tavern, helping serve tables and clean, he approaches Jesse while she takes stock of her bar. "Jesse," he says to get her attention. Jesse turns around looking up from her notes. "Yes, Lucius?" She replies to him, speaking in Elven. I want to ask you a question, but I don't know how. You mean you don't know the words, or it's just a difficult topic? The second one. I wanted to know about why you let these women. Why don't you let Why are Stelena and Zinj here? Shouldn't they be free? Jesse puts her note on the bar and places her quill back in its ink bottle. Stelena and Zinj. Hadassah has told you the stories, huh? She asked, pausing for Lucius's head nod. I live by a set of rules. I love all people and cultures. I gave these women a chance for freedom. They chose to do what they are doing. Stelena will never stop hurting herself. She has grown up in a culture that tells her she is to be punished. She may one day reject that culture, but I can't force my beliefs on her. If I tried, she would go somewhere else, possibly back to her people and her punishment. Do you understand? Lucius nods reluctantly, opens his mouth to speak, but changes his mind, seeing the clearly determined look on Jesse's alabaster face. As for Zinj, she is from a similar culture, the culture of slaves. She doesn't know anything different. Unable to keep his knowledge to himself, Lucius blurts out, "What about the halfling village in the woods?" Lucius asks. Jessie raises her eyebrows disapprovingly. "You heard that one too?" she asks. "I have heard from some that there is a small group living in freedom. Paul claims to have seen them. We have told Zinj, and I have told her she is free to go when she wants. When she is ready, she may go. That would make me happy, but she, it seems, is happy here. I think we should keep trying to persuade her," Lucius retorts. Jessie rolls her eyes, and after a deep sigh responds, "Lucius, she doesn't know those people in the woods. They are her kind, but she doesn't even know her kind. Halflings live in cages. They only know pain. Do you want to help them? Convince the goblins to stop." She grabs her parchment from the bar and heads out of the room. Out of the room to the kitchen. Lucius watches as she leaves, unable to think of anything to say till she is out of sight, and by then it's too late. Which is worse, keeping slaves or turning a blind eye to the practice? Damn it, why couldn't I have said that? Probably wouldn't have helped anyway. Later the same night, Paul arrives with Stellick and Stern at his side. Lucius rushes to serve them. He takes their order after bringing them their usual 3 large tankers of ale and 6 shots of fire wine. He starts asking questions. "Paul, did you really see a group of halflings living in the forest?" Paul takes a big swig from his tankard. "Yes, I sure did. Who told you?" he asks. "Hadassah?" Hadassah," he says in a dreamy voice. "I guess I should watch what I say, but she does have a gift for making men comfortable. I guess she has a lot of gifts pertaining to men," he says with a laugh, slugging Stern in the shoulder and knocking him off his chair to the floor. Lucius is suddenly reminded of the time Hadassah had done a similar thing to him during his language lessons. "So there are free halflings?" he asks. "I guess they are. What is it to you, boy?" he asked, helping Stern to his feet. "I want to help Zinj and the halflings find freedom." Paul, Stellick, and Stern begin to laugh. "Freedom? The halflings will never find freedom. The ones living in the woods aren't free. They live in fear of everything. They're prisoners wherever they go." How did they end up in the woods? How did they escape? Lucius asked. They didn't escape. The halflings in the woods are the same halflings that work at the king's castle. When the halflings were given to the king, he gave the halflings a job and their freedom. He believes they will prosper with freedom. I don't know, he might be right. From what I've seen, they just hide in the woods scared. You can't force freedom, Paul explains, pausing for a drink. So you don't need to do anything. Well, how can I find them? Lucius asked. You wouldn't last a night in those woods. Then help me. Paul stares at Lucius, his eyes cutting a cold path through his bravery. Just leave it alone, boy, he says, switching to English. It was the only chance Lucius had in a flash, and it was gone. Paul was right. He wouldn't survive a night in the woods, and if he left Jesse and Paul to track him down, it was his only chance Lucius had, and in a flash it was gone. Paul was right. He wouldn't survive a night in the woods, and if he left Jesse, she would send Paul to track him down. Besides, he had no way of finding the halflings. So Lucius gave up his quest to save the halflings. Chapter 10.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah.
Gave up his quest.
So who's that? You're drawing.
Just, I thought it'd be fun to switch up my idea on the mech driver.
Huh?
This is kind of the idea of the scene where she's going to talk with the knights.
Right.
And so this is she's taking off her helmet.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny. One of the great things about reading this, besides entertaining the audience, is I think this will help with my editing, because that chapter alone had a whole lot of dialogue, but it didn't have the background. I need to go back through that and fill in all the he said, she said stuff, plus, what they were doing at that moment, or, the background, where they're at, etc.
Right.
So, but that's the great thing about reading it.
Yeah, that's the important thing about going over it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing that kind of, it's funny because, this, and our viewers don't really. I consider myself an okay artist, but at one time I actually tried to draw this stuff myself, and then I learned really quickly that being an artist is completely different than being an illustrator. Because an illustrator can make a character in one panel look like the same character in a different panel. And for some reason, when I would draw a character, if I drew Lucius in one panel, the Lucius I drew in the second panel wouldn't look like Lucius.
Yeah.
And it's just, I learned real quick that I can't, do that. But it's funny, when you get done with a picture, you go over it and you fine tune things here and there. But luckily it's just one page. But man, with writing, it seems like you're constantly fine tuning everything. And there's so many pages that you have to go through the whole damn thing But that's the great thing about reading it for everybody is I'm truly going through every page now, you know, and I'm not skipping over anything, which is good.
Yeah.
Is she holding something, or is that?
Yeah, she'll be.
Yeah.
I have her.
Here's a really strange question that's, you know, kind of out of left field. So, the mech driver is, you know, according to me, according to this universe, she is connected to the mech that she drives. You know, so just like in the Matrix, the computer can actually literally download stuff to her.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that, you know, all of the human languages, I'm sure she has access to. But do you think that would it be fun to actually have her somehow know Elven? I don't know how that would actually happen. Because, I mean, it's a dead language,
Right.
basically a dead culture, a dead race.
Yeah, unless there's a way to.
I mean, I guess she can learn later.
It's a dead language, but can anybody read it? You know,
That's a good question.
Well, I was mentioning an interesting idea of Lucius having to go and track somebody down, maybe like maybe like a hermit.
Well, I mean, he goes and tracks down Migno, of course.
Right, but then can Migno read it?
Oh, well, yeah, Migno speaks it and reads it.
So okay. So what about this? So she sits down with Migno and she says, "Read me a novel." And as he's reading it,
she downloads it to the.
She's recording all that.
Right, uploading it to the computer.
Yeah, and then she can have him translate something, and then she could probably I mean, a computer would probably could decipher it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then download it to her, and she can
then she can speak. That's cool.
That might be interesting.
But you know, once again, it, you know, for being a throwaway character originally, you know, she's becoming more and more important because I think she'll be an easy link between the future and the past. You know?
Right.
So. But the question is how long should it take her to trust that Lucius is telling the truth? Because you know how crazy that would sound to her? Yeah. Somebody who's actually fighting aliens? To actually hear something like, oh, well, this was all caused by a human elf hybrid from the you know, medieval times.
Right.
You know.
Well, I was kind of, you know, as I've been trying to rework these pages, and I was looking at. I didn't write it down. I should have, but I'm trying to remember it as. So I can't do two things at once, but because she opens up this dialogue. Let me move it over here. Just a second. You know, she has this opening dialogue with Have engaged hostile aircraft. 3 eliminated. 2 remaining. Advise further.
Right.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing she says.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and then she goes on later, you know, then there's a printout on the screen, eliminate remaining 2. Now whether that, you know, once again, should she be talking to somebody or... Because, I mean, here's future...
Because she's
here's future technology, and now she's getting a text message instead of talking to somebody directly.
Well, I mean,
and the Spitfires were talking to somebody directly.
Well, the Spitfires are radioing their base, but no, she's engaging with the computer that she's in.
Right.
But,
well, she's engaging with the computer, but who's she talking to?
The computer.
Just the computer?
Right.
Or, I mean, but not like her
headquarters? No. Because one of the things that happens with her is when the time shatters,
right?
Her link back to the hive or whatever you want to call it,
right,
is severed. Because later she asks the computer, you know, what day it is and all that kind of stuff, and the computer says there's an error and he can't link with the. No, there's no.
So then, how does she do the whole thing with finding out their technology and the printout of the plane without being connected?
That's all.
In the computer.
In the computer.
Oh. Why is it stored in? Why is it in the computer?
Well, because you can store massive amounts of information in those computers.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, you can, but why would you put that in there? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but also because these mechs are designed for spaceflight, interstellar travel, and,
right?
Because so she's not always going to be hooked to a computer, or, you know, to the mothership or whatever you want to call it. So they have to be kind of self-contained.
Okay.
So
well, I guess so. What I was thinking was,
you know, this kind of stuff needs to go in the book somehow.
Right.
So yeah.
My thing, just thinking about it as I was looking at it, became interesting. Is be like, HQ, under attack, and just static, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No noise. Right.
Justifying that she can't talk to her HQ, and then just kind of do like a ship's log,
right,
type of thing, where it's like, have engaged hostile aircraft. Then it's like, computer, identify hostile aircraft, and it's like, we could have different, like, and it's like, error, right? And it's like, she's like, well, they appear to be ancient. They appear to be old. They're using old technology.
Propellers, for Christ's sakes.
Right. You know what I mean? but you can have this idea, you know, yeah, there's some stored, but not that far back. Because one thing with, like, modern day computer, even though your computer can hold a ton of stuff, you don't put all of it on it because it just slows everything down.
Right.
So it's like, maybe that's not so now she's really on her own, and we get the feeling that she's being cut off from. Because
there's another scene, because I wanted to describe this world that they live in now. Wow. In the future, I don't know. Anyway, but I wanted to describe because the way that I describe it is that, yes, she's living in a self-contained computer world. I mean, she's living in that mech. She can walk around, and she can actually use that like the Matrix, where she can actually create things and create artificial reality in that bubble that she's living in. She's literally living in a bubble,
right?
And and everything, she can feel everything, she can touch everything, And so, in that world where, like I said, the war that they're fighting at this moment is against aliens, and there's a scene that I wrote where there was a bunch of mechs that were kind of docked at this space station.
Yeah, I tried drawing the concept for that,
and
I didn't want to draw all the perspective. Sorry.
Right, but but what these mech drivers, are able to create a what do they call that when you hook computers together?
A network.
Network. They are able to network together when they're when they're in close proximity to each other. They can network together, and they can actually interact virtually with the other mech driver. Meaning that if it's a male mech driver and a female mech driver, if they want to make out and have sex, they can, but it's all virtual. I mean, they can still feel everything because the liquid that they're in provides that stimulus or whatever you want to call it.
That's interesting.
So that's what I was trying to. So they can literally meet inside of a matrix type environment and have sex or whatever, or fight or do whatever they do, and then they can disconnect and go back into their bubble. So yeah.
Which one looks cool?
What are you doing?
Well, I want to add I was going to add a fleur de lis on this wrap that she put on to show that it's.
Oh, this is when they give her the clothes.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that, but that's funny as hell.
That's what I was trying to do with this was. This
is after she met them the first time, and
right.
And they're trying to. I see. That's very cool. But yeah, but so that's what kind of the fun part about this thing is creating a future and this past that never really happened.
Right. Well, that's what I was like. I'd love to see. Oh gosh, I should never do two things at once.
It's working.
I think in here it'd be interesting to play up this whole thing that I mean, that she's alone. I didn't know that she was cut off from head. I thought when she was talking there that she's talking to headquarters.
No, and I guess I should like you said, I need to go back in there and make it more clear.
Because I like that idea that she's left on her own, and then all we have to do is change up the wording slightly.
I mean, she's technically not alone because the machine itself is a sentient being.
Okay.
It's just that humans and machines now work together. It's past the war of man versus machine, and the machine and the men are kind of live in harmony.
Oh, so that'd be kind of interesting. It's like an android system.
Yes, but they're literally linked together.
Okay. Yeah. So, transform.
So, I mean, it could get interesting to where
That's not what I want.
I don't know if that would ever happen, but it would be kind of interesting if a mech actually was arguing with the pilot.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have to go that far. I mean, there is the mesh transform. That's what I wanted. I love Tron, and when he gets that one ship, with the little Q, you're doing it wrong. That thing's like, it's just a single little bot that just tells him yes or no, right or wrong, and that was just a cool little. I really like that.
I don't know if I remember that. Is this
You
the
don't remember
original or the remake?
Yeah, the original. Let's remember when he gets in the flying
Jeez.
machine.
You know how long it's been since I've seen the original Tron?
Oh man, that's one of those ones I break out every few years and watch because it's just my childhood. Actually, this was my first tape that I ever made for myself.
Yeah.
Yep. And it has an anime on it that I got from a friend who was from Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I borrowed his, called Vanguard Ace.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if you remember growing up. There's these tall, like 24-inch Shogun robots.
Yeah.
And they shot their hands off of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the thing.
Right.
Well, that was Vanguard Ace. And then it has Tron and Star Wars on it. And
It's funny.
That tape has been played so many times.
Right. Well, it's funny because speaking of VHS tapes, I kept 2 VHS tapes from the huge library that I had. I had hundreds and hundreds of VHSs, but I kept the first movie I ever bought was Terminator, and so I kept that one. And then of course, the other one I have is my daughter's first 100-day celebration in Korea. I married a Korean, and But anyway, Evie, when she was in Korea, they celebrate when a child makes it past 100 days because in the old days, sometimes kids would, quite a few kids would die, early. And so if they said that if a child made it past 100 days, it was going to live a long and life. So we went to Korea, and we have that all on film, which is on VHS. I need to get that transferred to something. Because
what's that process when it's so expensive?
Yeah,
I have all these slides that my wife has of her growing up, and we can't watch them, can't see them.
Yep.
Because we don't have a projector, and those things. Well, they're not as expensive, but they're still expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And one of these days we'll buy one.
Yep.
But so my idea with this is if she was talking to, it'd be cool to change the vernacular that she's definitely talking to herself, or she's making a supplemental blog or something, because that would really change, in my mind, how things are being perceived.
Right.
And let's see. Let's see here. I think I'll use something like this.
Yeah, I mean,
oh, yeah, that's cool.
I think that would be a good idea too. I mean,
and to show that she's alone.
Right.
And so then to see the knights attacking, although, yeah, damn. Yeah. And see the knights attacking the Nazis, and maybe, but then there's no reason for her to help, except for they attack her. I don't know, unless they attack her.
Well, I mean, the Nazis ran into the woods. She didn't really attack them. They just saw her and freaked out and ran the other way.
Right. Well, I had the idea that maybe one of the planes ran into her.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first was drawing this, I drew those planes. I drew her huge. I didn't really quite understand 40 feet.
Right.
But I got downloaded a 3D program.
Yeah, I saw that last podcast.
Yeah, and I was able to, and then I downloaded a a 3D render of a Spitfire, and somebody had did this robot. So I was able to make, zoom her in, or what's it called, scale her up to make her 40 feet.
Right.
Compared to the planes, and it was all of a sudden, it was like, oh, that makes her actually quite small. And to some extent, a little vulnerable to them.
Well, yeah, I mean, any solid projectile being shot at you at a high rate of speed could be a bad thing,
right?
Depending on technology, force fields, metal, all that kind of stuff.
So, my thing was what I had the idea was to have the plane hit her, and it would almost be kind of interesting that it actually damages her a little bit.
Yeah.
And then as she falls,
I like the plane disappearing.
Well, yeah, that all happens, but she could be damaged.
Yeah.
Then drops down, and
well, the greatest thing about that is not just that, because that would allow me a chance to have more dialogue between her and the computer,
right,
and the mech, because like you said, I need to establish that it's just her and that machine.
Well, it's like, well, what would happen if the Nazis were about to attack her and they save her? The Knights save her.
Oh.
And because of that,
well, I think
she's a little more trusting.
I think it's more comical the way it works.
Right. No, I agree.
They run into the woods and then they run back out. Oh my God! Ah! But what is that video game? Titanfall.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I thought of this whole, human and machine being connected thing, God, how many years has it been now? A long time ago when I was putting this thing together. I mean, we're talking about 10 or 11 years ago when all this crap was pouring out of my mind. That Titanfall, I'd never even heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I started putting all this stuff together and I wrote this and I had that that perfectly round room that she was in and how everything would work, and the liquid itself would provide tactile feel for everything, so it actually felt like she was in the real environment. All that stuff, and then all of a sudden you get this video game that comes out, and it's about a mech driver and a mech, and they're connected together, and you can run around as a human, just popping off people, but at the same time you're connected to your mech, and you can have him providing cover fire type stuff and all this cool shit. And it's like, wow. But anyway, it's just kind of interesting how a lot of people think alike, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Although the perfectly round room with the liquid is still, I haven't seen that anywhere else.
I don't think so.
So far.
Right. Let's see if this works. Go here. Where's my brush size?
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that would be kind of cool. Like we were saying before, having her the mech, literally dragging something, but also, just that scene where, she starts talking to the knights, she starts talking to Lucius. I mean, sure, we cut away in the script, we cut away, and there's a flashback at that point, but just to have her and the other knights walking along, talking to each other, and with every footstep she takes, you hear this big ka-chung in the background, because the frickin' mech is following them, just walking along with them.
Right.
I think that would be so cool, because everywhere she goes, that thing will be walking right along with her, So yeah, pretty neat.
Yeah, that kind of worked. Yeah. What do you think? How's that? Is that kind of cool?
So is that okay? So it's kind of like Iron Man type thing where it has a front piece that just pops off.
Well,
her ears are protected.
I have her have a helmet on.
Right.
The thing about the outfit that you can't see is that I have the idea that the back of the head, so you have that earpiece, right?
Right. Then you had a bunch of wires going in, huh?
Yeah, and then it'd be like the Matrix.
Yep.
Now, I haven't decided in my mind, but you can do. Are these just plugs, or just all kind of like open crags? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like she just has computer parts sticking out the back of her head. Or is it all self-contained and then wires come down and plug in?
That's really good questions.
But she'd be standing there, kind of all wet, and then with her shroud on, and then in the back of the head, all these little holes and pop marks, like Neo little holes, and from the Matrix.
Because that's another thing, and this will make kind of the story a little deeper also. These humans from this time period, the mech drivers, they don't eat traditionally.
Oh yeah.
The tubes and stuff that go into her weren't just meant for information. It was meant for biological needs. Liquid, food, also waste disposal.
This would work. Nope.
So she, like I said, doesn't. I mean, that would be kind of a fun little scene to have her first meal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she's read about it. She knows in theory how it works.
Well, my when way back when I was thinking about these things and designing stuff, I had the idea that she actually never comes out of the thing.
Well, that was the thought at first for me too, but I like the idea of her leaving it.
Well, it's not that she can't leave it. It's just that there's no reason for her to actually leave.
Right.
In her time period.
Right, because she virtually talks to everybody.
Virtually talks, gets her food, everything, and so she just kind of...
There's no reason.
So, but I thought it'd be interesting then to have it that way, and then she leaves to talk to them.
Right.
And then...
And that's another thing. Maybe there should be a conversation between her and the computer when she's telling the computer that she has to get out.
Should I get out?
Right. And
what do you think?
right.
The thing, Not the, but I mean, I could just see like from Tron, the no, no, no. You know what I mean? It's like, don't do it. What do you do? Don't do it. And she's like, well, I got to do something.
Right.
But it'd be interesting.
Because the reasons she can give, the logical reasons, are that they're cut off.
Right.
They can't even tell what time of day it is, what year it is. They can't hook up to their mothership or whatever you want to call it any longer. So they are alone.
Right. Which is why I think it'd be interesting is if that, I mean, you had this whole conversation between Lucius and them and her and they're explaining the time period, and then she goes on her computer, but it'd be interesting if the computer didn't have that information. Technically.
Yeah, but at the same time, sometimes it's better for expediency. I mean, some people would call that lazy writing, but at the same time, it's nice to have that tool available.
Right, but I mean, does it really need to be there? I mean, and then her trust of them adds an interesting layer to her character and to their dynamic interaction.
Right. Yep. Yep. It's amazing how character becomes important all of a sudden.
What do you think?
And it's funny because all these, I like it.
Do you?
It's funny how all these characters from the first book that I'm reading now for everybody, in this graphic novel version of it, nobody would even know who the hell Bogreet is.
Right.
Bogreet died in the first, 3 chapters? I don't even know when he died. But, I mean, he was killed off, and he was still one of my favorite characters. I mean, sure, we have the female version of him, but, yeah. But anybody reading the graphic novels would have no idea who these people are. Which, is kind of fun in a way.
Oops.
Oops, what?
Wrong layer.
Characters. Yeah.
Because I think that would change a little bit of her interaction too, like not just with them, but with the planes. It's like, what do?
Right.
Do I actually
attack
attack these things?
Well, that's what I was trying to, with that conversation, that dialogue, of, when she says that they're ineffectual, basically she's trying to say to the computer, why are we even bothering swatting these ants?
Right.
They're not a danger. But like the computer says, it responds, well, it could be a trick. But that's.
And I think that'd be cool too, if it was a little bit more explained that she's talking to a computer.
Yeah.
Instead of to
it's
to the base, because then it's like.
Well, that's the
She
great.
has to take a little bit of a leap there.
That's the real one of the biggest differences when you're writing a book versus doing a graphic novel. All of that backstory type stuff, you know, you can explain it a lot easier, you know, in words, you know, what she's doing and why she's doing it, versus, you know, visually, you know, seeing it on a page is, you know, as a picture, it's a lot harder to do that, because all of the background scenery is provided by the artist.
Right.
And I didn't really want to talk down to the readers or anything like that, and try to, you know, stop the story and explain this kind of stuff. But I think now, you know, the more we talk about it, I definitely want to add some more dialogue between her and the computer, and where they actually, you know, talk about that they have been cut off from headquarters, basically, and that they don't even know what time it is any longer.
Right.
And yeah. And then there needs to be a conversation of, I need to get out and talk to these strange creatures that are standing, you know, in front of us.
She knows they're human. I mean,
yeah, they're human. I know, but you know, I have to talk to these people. But then, you know, the computer can remind her of stuff like, you've never actually walked before.
Right.
I mean, virtually you have walked, because, you know, the liquid provides resistance and you can feel your feet hitting ground.
Oh, that'd be cool, yeah.
But it's not necessarily the same thing. It's a computer simulation.
Right.
So, you know, she'll have to get used to things like gravity, air, not solid footing, you know, mud, whatever, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that would be fun. You know, also, you know, it would be the first time she'd ever have to maybe go to the bathroom on her own.
Oh yeah, that's actually kind of funny.
And, you know,
you could have your seashell,
right, from the
moment, right?
If nobody got that reference, that's from Demolition Man. Great movie, by the way. But yeah,
not great. One of the best.
It is definitely.
Ooh.
Oh, 6 of you. Such nice, tidy uniform.
Oh,
I'm so scared.
That didn't come out as bad as I thought it would.
Looks good.
I mean, it's not.
So, who was the gentleman that gave up his coat?
Victor. Victor's the Puritan, right?
Right.
Victor's the.
Sure.
I mean, Claude would be like, ooh, and
right.
and a couple of other ones.
Claude would be taking off his pants.
but Victor's the Puritan. Gareth's the old man that would respect, and so would Lucius.
Right.
I originally, I think I had Lucius given it, but I think Victor makes the best sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so he pulls off the cloak, which means I have to put that cloak now back in the book, so I don't have him wearing that cloak during that battle. So I need to add that to make him look more.
Well, I mean, he could simply walk over and grab it off of the ground, because, I mean, he most likely fell off his horse just like everybody else did.
It's true. He could grab it from the horse.
Right.
But I like the idea that she would come out, maybe they're talking, and then she steps out of the thing, and then they turn around and, you know what I mean?
Right.
They wouldn't be expecting
her
to be naked from from here down,
right,
type thing, you know, and be like, what the heck's going on? You know, but
yeah.
Yeah, so I've changed her quite a bit. You know, Marty had her as a guy.
Originally.
And I was like, I want to draw a girl.
Mech driver is a mech driver.
I was like, whatever. And then I just kind of changed her there again. I made her different.
Makes me wonder.
I don't know if that's something. I was just messing around with it.
No, it makes me wonder what her hair looks like.
What it would look like?
Well, I mean, I'm sure sure this stuff back here on the back of her head, you know, it's been modified.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, hair won't grow there. But you can't tell me that hair won't grow here.
Right.
You know.
Well, unless she was.
So
is it printed?
Is it possible that she can have long hair and flip it back over all that electronic crap?
I thought we just had a monk afro.
Monk fro.
Monk fro. But well, I mean, she could technically have been digitally printed. Printed to be a mech driver. That would be a great way to solve your ethical problems of taking just somebody else's child and throwing in there to be, you know what I mean? Where you could justify, well, we just make it.
Right.
We'll just, you know,
because
development, right?
This is where it gets a little, because you know that's the one thing that I need to actually do, because you know I have a future history in my brain of what happened in what sequence, and so you know a lot of this has to do with pop culture. So you know, because I wanted this to be a good role-playing game,
right.
And so the future wars that we have, there's one where there's a nuclear type holocaust where we blow the shit out of everything, and it puts us into a age where it's like Mad Max type thing, you know, and where everybody's, you know, just struggling to survive. And then there's a I'm trying to remember if I have this correct. No, there's an initial war with machines, and the machines nearly wipe out all humans, and the humans start augmenting themselves with you know, cyborg type stuff, and just so they could fight back against the machines. And then time goes on. Man tries one last ditch effort to destroy the machines, and practically destroys the planet trying to destroy the machines, and they retreat underground. The people do, similar to the Matrix type thing where the machines live on top and the people live underground. And then enough time goes by to where they humans want to return to the surface. They do. When they get out, they find that the machines have really just kind of taken over as the new humans. You know, they have built their own society. They have their own cities, etc. And so these humans suddenly pop up in a world where there are no humans left, and so the machines decide that they need to finish the job and wipe out all humans. So then they have a bunch of hunter robots. The robots now are so advanced that they look human. You know, everything about them, you know, their skin feels real, etc. And they have, you know, they try to make themselves as much as human as possible. Anyway, so the there's this whole movement with the machines to try and wipe out humanity completely. There's another big war that happens, and you know, all wars eventually come to an end, and the humans and the machines decide that they need to live and work together. I think part of that is because there's a new threat to the planet, and that's from the aliens. And so then they start creating new technologies where the humans and the machines are basically put together, and you know, as a symbiotic relationship. And that's you know, because you were saying the humans don't really volunteer to go into this program. The humans have been almost wiped out completely at this point, to where, yes, as soon as they're born, they're linked to a computer. So, yeah, there's no moral thing there. And there are some, but very few humans are not linked to a computer.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, you know, you could have your alien, what's that movie, Starship Troopers.
Not the bugs.
Well, it's not the bugs.
It's an ugly planet. It's a bug planet.
It's the, your service is your citizenship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which is a fascinating concept that people are starting to...
No, I mean, in my version of things, you know, because in most people's version of the man versus machine war, you know, the AI versus people thing, in most people's versions, the humans win. In my version, the humans don't really win; they get to survive. Mm-hmm. But from that point on, it's all symbiosis type thing. So. Because no matter what, how well the technology advances, there's still some things that a human can do that a robot couldn't, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just stick them together like a Reese's peanut butter cup? Somebody just knocked on your door.
That's not what I wanted.
Is your wife still downstairs?
You should be. I think that was probably...
the kid?
No. What's that place that delivers stuff? Amazon?
Oh.
I think she has something.
Yeah, I have some stuff being delivered tomorrow.
Something like that, I think.
It's amazing, you know. You always talk about you don't really like the color. But you're not bad.
Every now and then I can do a little bit. What's helped out with this tremendously was I was having a tough time I used to use Photoshop to color in.
Right.
But when I had to redo my computer, my Photoshop license kind of disappeared. I have a version of it, but I was like, it was not installing right, and so I just use this instead. But I haven't been able to find brushes that just work like my Photoshop brushes did. And because of that, I just haven't been able to feel good painting anything. And
This
I get frustrated. But this, with the latest update to the Clip Studio,
right.
they added in a thing of being able to import your Photoshop brushes.
Right.
And so these are actually my old Photoshop brushes, and
You know, it's funny.
they're doing what I want.
This camera angle that you have right now, you can actually see the picture that you're working on from,
Yeah.
and then also, you know, that you have it on the screen there so they can actually see it. I think that's a pretty good angle.
Well, I wanted to have it where wasn't so much that I think you should be able to see on my tablet,
Right.
but I know from watching people that one thing that I noticed from other artists is you're like, how do you get that mark? I don't understand how you can get that actual mark on the paper until you realize how weird the hole in the pencil. You know, it seems goofy, but it's like I will draw these faces, and when I draw them, to get like the expressive part of it, I'll hold my pencil way out like this,
Weird.
and just kind of not, and then just that way it's very expressive, very loose. And then once I figure out something that's, then I can go in tight, and I will I usually don't do it with like this type of a brush, because
Right.
I like to do it with a very thin brush, and so those marks are usually very light and hard to see. But you know, it's like, well, you watch an artist sometimes, and you're like, wow, what made him think of doing that shape, you know? And it's like, a lot of times, nothing. He found it in the concept phase of it, just, you know, just messing around, and then, oh, there's the shape. And he keeps that part of it and cuts out another part.
Right.
But you think they had this amazing thing to start with, and then you can't figure out how to do it like that, and so then you get all discouraged and frustrated, and realize, it's like I have this documentary called Painting the Last Rose of Summer by this illustrator that one of my favorite illustrators, Robert McGinnis, and you wonder, how does he paint all? How does he come up with these beautiful women, and he paints them so perfectly? And I mean, they're drawn just impeccable, and he takes a photograph of them and then traces it on the canvas.
Wow.
And I'm like, son of a bitch. I spent hours and hours trying to meticulously get the face just right. And all he did was photograph his model and then traces it, and then when he's tracing it, he might push the cheek out a little bit more, or angular here, just change the little features here and there, but he changes it just a little bit, and then adds some different expressions in his line work, and all of a sudden it looks like he spent days drawing this amazing picture. And no. There's another guy named James Gurney, and he has these beautiful. He did a book called Dinotopia.
Mm-hmm.
You may have seen Dinotopia on FX channel back in the early 2000s. That was his show. But he has these beautiful illustrations of like these castles and or these like open market area with all this market and dinosaurs walking through it with people, and it's all this amazing perspective work and all this great stuff and all this stuff, and I remember going and asking the teacher at school how he would have. I said, "Isn't that amazing? Look at all that." And he just looked at it and went. I go, "What? It's awesome." He goes, "Yeah, that's great." He's all, "Who has time for that?" I go, "Well, how would you do it?" I'd just go and find somewhere around town that has that type of stuff, and I just take a picture of it. And I go, "Well, what about putting all the people in place?" He's like, "You'd be surprised if you ask somebody, hey, can you just stand there real quick for me? And I'm an artist, and they'll just stand in the spot for you." And he's like, "I just take it all the pic. Now I just bring it back, and I just piece it all together and draw it that way." He's all, "Then all your perspectives already worked out for you." It's like, son of a bitch. You start learning into these guys, and you start realizing,
well, yeah,
man, they all cheat.
Well, yeah, but we
cheat.
We I mean, on Shatteredtime we haven't cheated much, but when we did a town called Liberty, which we still haven't talked about on much on podcast yet. Remember, we found that computer program where you can
Google SketchUp. Yeah,
that is awesome.
Although
to be able to,
that no longer works. You have to pay for it. So
that's fine. We'll pay for it when we need to.
Yeah.
But I mean, because for the people that are listening, A Town Called Liberty is another story that we're writing. It's kind of like Sin City, where there's no main characters really. There are some reoccurring characters, but they're all standalone stories. But it's the setting that's more important. Kind of like Sin City, where the city is the thing, and so we actually designed the city and laid it out on a computer program, Google something, and
Google SketchUp,
and it allows you to actually put yourself on the street in that city. So you have background and everything. It's really cool, and so you can literally have two people talking and walking down the street, and all that background is just provided for you, more or less.
Yeah,
and it looks really good.
It was kind of cool to be able to do that. Just kind of go in and
insert the characters.
Yeah.
So yeah, because we got we pretty much have almost all of book 1 done for Town Called Liberty.
We got about
Gotta be 3/4.
a third of the way. No, because it was actually about 80-page little booklet.
Right.
And I think I only got like 20, if that.
Maybe. Yeah, it looks really good.
But yeah, I was able to go get just a bunch of different free 3D models, and I just started stacking them and created the city, so that it's like we can always go back to the same spot over and over again. It's like zoom right down in, you can get the perspective you want, and bam, quick and easy.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, it's cheating.
Mm. Well, you know what though?
Or it's genius.
I've made a couple of videos. I made one I put up on YouTube, and I did it on here, and yes, it is cheating to just take somebody else's photograph, trace it, and then call that your artwork. Because technically, the photographer acted as an artist to get
right
the person just the way they wanted for that picture.
Right.
So when you use reference, though, you'll see guys use reference, and then they you can do one or two. You can sit there and you can construct it with construction lines. You can measure. You can have proportional dividers, which measure it, and then you can measure it to yours, and then you could also grid up your system. Put a grid over your reference, and then put a grid up where you want to draw it, and 5B is right where this line hits, so 5B is right where that line, and you can transfer it that way too. And I was showing people how what I've been doing is I'll draw the picture, draw the face, and then it's off. So I draw it again. I draw it real quick. Boom, boom. And then I'll go and I'll trace the reference. Overlay that over my picture to see exactly how far off my eye is really seeing. Move it off to the side. Adjust it. Bring it back. Adjust it. And then at the end, if there's some final little nudges I just can't see that just make the picture just right, I'll just add those in. And then it's like, because what happens is then a couple drawings later, I sat down and I had a face I put up, and man, I hit it the first time. My eye has started correcting its abnormalities. I don't know why you'll be looking at the face from the forward, and all of a sudden you'll draw it this way. Mm. I know a lot of people are left-handed. End up when they're not willing to construct the face right, their faces will end up being shifted. Mm-hmm. Everything will be on an angle. I think some right-handers do it too, but that's usually like this. Right. But it's still shifted if you don't construct it. Use your perspective and construct it right. So the idea of using the tracing eventually is to train your eye. Your eye is starting to learn, oh, I was doing that wrong. I was seeing her draw way too long or way too wide out. And then all of a sudden you start drawing and you won't have to rely on the tracing as much. And you start, to hit your poses. You can hit your portraits better. So it actually works. When I went up that Bill Whitaker, and he was like, the fastest way to teach somebody to draw is the copy. I go, what do you mean? He goes, so what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you take this drawing that somebody did of a sculpture. They're called casts, because they cast from the original sculpture, and they made these little casts that they could ship around all these different art schools. Mm-hmm. And then people draw them. That's how they learn their value, their white to black values. Because you'll be sitting there shading something, and the guy comes up and goes, well, that's not very good. You need about a 3.2 on that. A 3 point what? You're like, how is a 3.2 shade of gray? You usually set up your values from 1 to 10. White and black is right. 1 and 10, and then your mid gray, and then there's grays different. And you'll say, yeah, you need about a 3.5 or 3.7. Like, how do you do a 3.7? And by the time you're done doing enough of those cast drawings, you're figuring out what a 3.7 looks like. and you're like, you just need just a slightest little shift. And up front, it might not look like anything, but when you start pulling back, all of a sudden you're like, that subtlety is there. And so he would just have me photocopy. I put a photocopy picture of the sculpture here. My paper. He'd give me the top and bottom of the sculpture and a center line. And I had to photocopy that. Just little ticks. And he would come over and stand over and by me and goes, does that left shoulder look right? I'm like back and forth. I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Are you sure? So I'm sitting there looking. He tells you, look. And then I erase it and I change it about a millimeter. Seriously, about a millimeter or two. He'd pat me on the back. Better. And just walk off. It was like, what? That's how trained his eye had gotten to the point where he was seeing stuff like that far. That's just a tiny bit.
Crazy. But
your eye, it's amazing how your eye and your brain will not want to talk right together. I don't know if this is always a family-friendly show. We never say whether it is or not at the beginning, but...
No.
This other artist, I downloaded one of his videos. His name is Zedegg. He's great. But he was saying in his thing, he was talking about how you'll be drawn along and you won't realize how something skewed or out of perspective something is, but you think, you look at it and it looks perfect, but it is really, really out of whack. And he's like, and then a couple hours later after you've done all this work and all this stuff, and you look at it and go, holy crap. And then you have to either leave it or go back and change it, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, your brain is an asshole like that.
Yeah.
But he's like, it's an asshole because it won't tell you while you're doing it that you're making the mistake until later. Then it's like, oh, hey, guess what? You made a mistake there. Right. And you're like, couldn't you have told me before I wasted hours of painting on this that it was wrong?
Yeah.
So it's like, train your brain to do it right the first time, then you won't have to fix that stuff later.
Right.
Oh, about it, huh?
This one is this isn't the Lucha. This is actually Bear and Sons. They have all the way from really cheap. Sorry, we went completely off. I'm showing him my new knife. I'm a knife collector. Just it's one of my hobbies. But anyway, this is Bear and Sons Ops 5, I believe, is what they call it. One of my favorite things. It has the little spring.
Oh, a spring.
I love that. So to open it, you just squeeze it and then whip it out.
Oh, so squeeze and then release?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's pretty fun. Squeeze, clunk.
I did it wrong.
You did the bite handle. Where the other handle with the clip on it is the handle.
It's been a while. I chopped my fingers off.
Well, as long as you're not holding the bite handle, you're good.
But it's like watching those women shoot those 50 cal handguns. They start off holding the handle and the gun pointing in the right direction.
Right.
But when they shoot it, it ended up looking back at them.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I want to learn a bunch of tricks, but I haven't got to that point yet. I mean, it's funny because when I first got into balisongs, I guess I could. You could say that I opened it the traditional way, where I flip it open, rotate, flip it, and then flip. But
what I was doing
now, when I want to open it, I just kind of flip it straight up. It's just easier. I know some tricks like this one. See if I can do this.
Oh gosh, that seems too. You could drop it.
Right.
In a fight.
Yeah, but I mean, there's one guy that I watch on YouTube. I can't remember his name, but he flips it and throws it and catches it and does all kinds of crap, and it seems like he never stops. I mean, it's always just constant.
My friend growing up wanted to create one with a 12-inch blade.
Right. But
actually, he wanted to make. I think he wanted it overall when it was out would be like almost 3 feet long.
But the other reason that I bought this is one of the problems I always had with battle songs is the traditional construction is they have a pin, and then they went to a bolt system where it just had the plastic spacers, but there was always a play side to side. Well, this one has bearings, and so there's no play at all, and so it's super smooth, and you just can't ask for anything better than that. So yeah.
Nice.
Sorry, that was a complete tangent. But
what's life without a tangent?
It's funny. Everybody at work, that I work with, they all know that I'm a knife nut. So yeah, I actually have a carrying case. I think right now I'm up to about 15 to 20 knives.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
Oh.
You dropped your eyeballs.
I know. I need to start carrying mine on a regular basis. I think.
What, a pocket knife?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get used to it.
Well, yeah. I'm a recent concealed carry holder, and I'm getting used to carrying my gun.
I still haven't done that yet.
It does. It feels weird the first time you go into a Walmart or wherever you're going, and you can feel it there.
Right.
And you're like, okay, this is weird.
Not so much that as it'd be like, it's there, and then it's like, hey, you're standing a little close to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? You need to back up. Even when I was doing IDPA pistol shooting stuff, there's this I don't know, it's just you're standing around with a bunch of other guys with loaded weapons, guns like that, and you're just kind of, I don't know, switched on a little bit. Like, could one of these guys just go nuts all of a sudden? You know what I mean?
Well, it is funny because I never seem to have a problem when I go into a gun store because almost everybody behind a gun counter at a gun store is packing. And I don't treat them any differently. It's just weird.
Me neither. I don't know. It's just something at the range when I was, and all the people that were doing the shoot were all cool
right.
dudes, Right. But there was just something about being around a bunch of people with a gun, and I was just like.
Well, I never had any problem at gun shows either. I used to go to gun shows all the damn time.
I never had any problem at a gun show.
It's weird. But yeah, I know what you mean, though. Sometimes it's just, yeah.
Or you're at the range, you're not carrying, but you're at the range, and there's some fools acting down the way, and you're just kind of like keeping an eye,
Right. Well, also, I guess the thing that goes through my mind is more than that. I mean, this is the thing that's weird about concealed carry is I'm always afraid that somebody's going to catch a glimpse, and they're going to freak out because that's the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
And pretty soon I'll have an officer come up to me and say, "Excuse me, sir, blah, 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 blah." It's like, it's like, yeah, I'm packing. Here's my license. Go away. But yeah,
Yeah.
But that's more than anything. That's what I'm afraid of. Is not that anybody will try to steal it or try to confront me about it. It's mostly that somebody will freak out about it and run and get authorities involved.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you do nowadays.
Right. And tattle.
Run and tell.
Run and tell. It's always somebody else's problem to fix, not yours.
Right. But then again, when I've been in, I've been hanging out with my buddy Brian. He conceals carry. He can conceals carry, and somebody will see his gun and not say a damn thing.
Yeah,
I've been in places where where there'll be like an undercover police officer, and I'll see their gun, and immediately that's the first thought I have is, oh, he's a cop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some people I've seen like that. I think cop off duty.
Right.
And I've seen some, and it's like, it doesn't bother me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why when I was doing that pistol shoot that it I just had that feeling. It was just weird. I don't know why, but it wasn't like I was worried.
Right.
But I was just I think what it was is when I did that pistol shoot, the most fascinating thing that anybody who owns a gun should do. They should go do stuff like that, and you really should shoot the gun with the understanding of what its purpose was, because it was quite sobering. My first shoot, that when that little beep went off, I pulled my 45 out and I went bam, bam, and I was shooting boom, and then we went back and we were checking my scores, And I looked at the very first target I did, and I had put 2 bullets literally 2 inches apart, right in the chest, dead center, and it was like, that guy ain't coming back no more. It was sobering. It was a sobering thought of. That was just natural. That was just reflex.
Well, it tells you that the threat will stop.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, all the training that I was doing, everything was working. It was just a sobering thought of.
Yeah.
That's not. Oh, I winged him, or oh, I scared him away. That was. There was finality there. You know what I mean? And then later, as I went to the 9mm, because then it became a game, and I turned the 9mm to get faster so I could move my. Because that day I ended up 11th overall, I think it was, out of 20 or something like that. I think. No, maybe it was out of 16 or 17. I ended up 11th overall, but I was second with accuracy. So I was the second best shot of everybody that day. But my 45 was just too slow compared to the 9mm.
Right.
So speed-wise, I fell down to 11. So after I think the second or third time, I was like, let me try the 9. And I went from 11 to 2 overall that way. Because this guy had a Glock that was just, he was so good with it.
Right.
And that was even
modified Glock. That's the.
Oh yeah, his was a BB zip banger.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like we were in like we were like in an open. Because there's not that many of us.
Right.
So we're just in a whatever you have, you can use.
Right. Yeah.
So you didn't have class distinction for which pistol we're using, but
that's definitely something I want to get into. But it's funny.
Teach you how to hold safely too.
It's funny right now. I can't imagine anybody's doing any of that.
Oh, you watch Tim? You watch Tim? They're talking about going shooting this, shooting that. It's like, and he keeps saying these things.
How do you afford ammo?
Because they're very rich. They make a lot of money on that.
Well, I understand that, but I mean,
So they're shooting very expensive ammo.
There's very little ammo to be had.
They also bought a lot of because they said like when they went, a lot of the main type of guns were gone.
Right.
So they're like, here, buy a Makarov. Okay, it's 9mm. Sure. No, it's a 9x18
right.
Russian. What? Wait, that's different?
Yes, very.
Oh, guess what? There's tons of that out there.
Yes.
And they're also shooting I think they said something about a 7.62, but it can't be a 7.62 by 39. It's probably a 7.62 by something else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably not the actual AK round, you know. So they're shooting off rounds,
right?
Off popular rounds. Like they said, they can go to they went to the store the other day, gun store, and there was 40 to be had.
Right.
10mm to be had. There's, you know, and there's probably rounds that once back in the day when you said this would be so hard to get a hold of, now it's plenty, and it's actually pretty badass round.
Right.
So I bet if you could find some 10mm or 357 SIG.
Well, 10mm is probably one of my favorite rounds.
I would love to have that MP5 in 10mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, my dream gun is that EAA Witness Hunter in 10mm. Has a long slide.
Did you match that with an MP5?
Right.
With 10mm?
Right. And you only have to carry one type of ammo, and yeah, you're good. Because I think a 10mm, it can get the job done on almost anything you want to do. Including hunting. They hunt boar. Pigs with it.
Pig, maybe not. Well, probably 300-pound pig might put a couple in.
Mm-hmm.
But unless it's grizzly,
right,
or polar, you can take down any bear with it.
Yeah.
Like black bear, brown bear, you're good. But grizzly, because grizzly's got like this extra size plated skull that people don't. I've heard people shooting a grizzly in the head with a 30-30, and it bounce off.
I've never met one.
I've never met a grizzly out there. You know what I mean?
I've met a black bear. That's not a fun experience.
Yeah, I've seen them over there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we tracked around a bunch with some fresh scat, but
right.
I had a 30-30 with me then. And even then, like when we were in California, so you see it, that you better shoot that thing here and going upwards, or you're going to jail. It better be a life-saving wound,
right,
or else you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If you shoot that thing anywhere,
mm-hmm.
back on top of its back, so you were up in a tree or something, you know,
right,
you better bury that thing.
Yeah.
And you better bury it 20 feet down, you know.
Right.
But
yeah.
10mm. Oh, that'd be a fun gun.
Yeah, it's funny. California it's a pretty state and all everything, but man, I don't miss it at all.
I do. It's just so pretty.
Yeah, it's
the Sierra Nevadas are just so pretty.
It's
Although
very pretty.
We went back last year in September when my wife's dad died,
mm-hmm.
and as we were going over Truckee, it was with the fires.
Right.
But I don't know if it was the fires that made it so dirty looking, but it was just kind of dungy up there, kind of dirty, and it's like something's changed.
Right.
And San Jose was way too packed with people.
Oh yeah.
That was just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't enjoy that at all.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
Although we thought about moving like to Santa Cruz.
Well, I can tell you my favorite parts of the
Monterey.
state.
Monterey.
My favorite parts of the state, one of the coolest little towns is San Luis Obispo.
San Luis Obispo. I like San Luis Obispo for the town part,
Yep.
but everything around it so
Oh, yeah.
just dead brown,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like that.
But, yeah.
Hogue has a shooting range out there. Hogue Grips.
Yeah. But, I mean,
I like Half Moon Bay.
but once again, I just don't...
Morro Bay.
You
There's a
look
little place called
around and
Morro
you
Bay.
see all this pretty stuff, and then there's just way too many people, and I just don't like it.
Yeah, well, you have to get away from the people. This is a great little fishing town called Morro Bay.
Right.
That's just a beautiful little town. I like that place.
Mm-hmm.
And then places up in the Sierras, I mean, Kennedy Meadows area, even on the back side of it, where Mammoth is,
Right.
and places like that are just. I could live up there. I could live down in some of the smaller fishing or surf cities. Like I said, Santa Cruz is pretty cool, but I'd be on that. And then there's a little spot as you go from Santa Cruz over to San Jose,
Mm-hmm.
the mountain range right there. There's a little thing called Scotts Valley in there, and it's just redwoods. It's like you're up in the Sierras, cabiny type of feel, but then the beach is just 30 minutes that way. It's just awesome,
Have you ever been to Solvang?
Sylvain, no.
That's Mom and Dad's favorite place. Is Solvang. It's the town itself. All the
Where is it?
buildings are Danish looking, so it looks like a huge Danish village.
Oh, well, there's a.
It's Solvang.
We just call it Kingsburg
Right.
because that's Swedish.
Ah.
But it's outside of Fresno,
I
or
see.
below Fresno, between Fresno and Bakersfield.
Right.
It's called Kingsburg.
I'm trying. I don't. You'd have to Google
I
Solvang.
bet it's close.
Yeah.
I bet it's close to that.
But yeah, it's
And in Northern California too, there's a campsite up just outside of Humboldt called Standish and Hickey, and you're in the redwoods, and it's just that was one of those places. That place and Big Sur were two places that I just enjoyed sitting in the redwoods, and it was beautiful. I really like the redwoods.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a shame. California's such a beautiful place.
It is. As long as it doesn't have people.
I mean, I understand that, if you don't like trees and stuff like that, then... Because, like, my brother, they love it down in St. George. They loved it in St. George. They love it in Vegas.
God, why?
I don't know.
I love
There's
trees.
people who love desert, though, who love desert
Oh
landscape.
yeah. I mean,
But I love...
I like trees.
And I love redwoods.
Mhm.
I really like big sequoias, big redwoods. I love that whole... yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. How you
what,
doing?
What do we have a person?
Yeah,
We're starting to wind down here.
Torn Droxen.
Torn.
Droxen.
Interesting.
Do you like you have a special place in California you like? Yeah, I like a lot of places there. I miss it. I used to live in Modesto and then Sacramento.
My brother still. I lived in Sacramento, but I lived in the worst parts. I lived in South Sacramento.
Yeah, we used to live in Rosemont.
It was a bullet festival. I've witnessed 2 or 3 drive-bys in my life, and was a victim of a carjacking. Yeah.
Wow.
It was not the place to be.
No.
But it's funny how things change. I mean, it's I'm sure it's still not a great place or anything, but I don't think it has the same reputation that it had. I don't think it's gangland as much as it was back then.
Oh no, that's like when I was in New York in the early '90s. I came back and I told people, they're like, "What about the gangs?" I go, "They don't have gangs there no more."
Right.
All the gangs split up into drug dealing drug dealing cartels, every few blocks has their own
Mm-hmm.
crew, like 5 or 10 guys. It's like, so as goes there, then it'll eventually reach the rest of the country,
Yeah.
And then, like, as a kid, we used to come to Utah for a family vacation because my dad's brothers were here, and my mom's mom lived in Salt Lake, up across from Liberty Park. My mom went to West Side. Hi.
Nice.
And when we'd always come, like, we would go into like a store or something, and they'd have 8 tracks.
Wow.
And stuff, and it's like,
You're pretty old.
but I had a Walkman on me.
Right.
Listen to a cassette.
Right.
And I'm looking at 8 tracks at the store going,
Yeah. Don't worry,
are you this far behind the times?
my mom and dad were driving a car that had an 8-track player in it.
Yeah, my brothers, I remember going with them to Capitol Records to buy 8 tracks. When I was little, I'd go with them, and yeah.
8-track.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody even knows what those are anymore. That's like when you tell somebody Beta, and they're like,
Beta.
What? Betamax.
8-track. I had a guy I worked with. He bought an older pickup. His kids got in the car. Said, "Dad, how do we put the windows down?" So there's a handle but no power, and didn't have power windows, so they didn't know how to get the window. He's like, "You turn the little cranky thing down there." Huh?
Right.
It's like,
oh my God, this is taking forever.
it's called manual labor.
I can't
son.
do this.
Manual labor, son. But I don't want to.
That was because sometimes because I moved around so much when I was little that I sometimes say that I actually grew up on the road, and it's funny because way back then you had to roll down the windows like that and stuff. It's funny when you did get electric power, playing with that all day. That was your entertainment.
But
I actually think
sticking your hand out do the
right.
the wind thing,
Right.
That you have to do that for.
Well, what was funny is I honestly think all those long road trips to new places and stuff, that actually helped develop stories in my head, because I would entertain myself by staring out the window and just thinking of different stories. Yeah. And so of course my mom and dad thought I was some weirdo loner that he's got to be on drugs. I've never touched a drug in my life.
I'd sit on the floor and color.
Right.
On the seat. We had station wagon. There was 5 of us, so I always had to sit up in the middle on the hump.
Yeah. Well, I was the baby, and so I actually sat between mom and dad.
Right.
It was a bench seat.
Oh, ours wasn't.
It was a bench. It wasn't a hump.
It was the hump with the separation there,
Right.
But I had to sit up there so that my brothers wouldn't kill me. It wasn't really that was pretty much the reason I had to sit up there, is because eventually it'd be, stop touching me, stop doing that, I'm gonna kill him.
Right. Well,
they would have hucked me out the window.
I got to hear all these stories secondhand because I was too young to remember any of them. But we had a Mercury Montego station wagon, 1972 Mercury Montego. The coolest thing about that car is it had a 351 Cleveland in it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it had the big bench seat, and I sat in the middle between mom and dad, and then it was Alan, Rachel, and Angie, and then Dalton, for some reason, volunteered to sit in the way back. Where there wasn't actually a chair back there. It was just a nice flat station wagon, thing where you're supposed to put luggage. So he would be back there.
Didn't have the pull-up seat?
And it did, but most of the time we had so much crap back there.
I used to sit up on the crap. I like being on the crap.
Right, and so, Dalton would be bugging Alan or Angie or Rachel, whoever, and he's in the back. And so, Mom apparently had a tool to quiet the kids when they got too rowdy. She had a yellow wiffle ball baseball bat.
Oh, gosh.
One of those plastic wiffle ball bats. And when they would start screaming and stuff, she'd just turn around and go whack! And hit them, and what was funny is Dalton, he would start causing all this chaos, and he had it to where he could go all the way back into the back of the station wagon and lean up against the door, and lay down flat, and she couldn't hit him no matter how hard she tried. But yeah, those are the entertaining stories I grew up with. But that's still one of the reasons that I love road trips to nowhere. Just getting in a car and driving with somebody, because there's never a better time to talk to somebody and just shoot the shit and whatever, because you're on a trip. You gotta say something.
Right.
And now they have them, and now we have podcasts.
Now we have podcasts to listen to.
Now we have podcasts to talk. So that's funny, because I was thinking about it the other day. Seinfeld has that show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, and really all that is, if you think about it, is a podcast on the road.
Right. All of it is. I mean, all it is TV interview shows.
Right. And the reason that I call it a podcast versus an interview show is because he's really not asking questions; they're just shooting the shit.
Right.
And that's what podcasting is just shooting the shit. I mean, that's literally all Rogan does. I mean, sure, he handpicks people that he thinks are entertaining.
Yeah, he has some questions you can ask him, but that's his own wanting to find out. But that's like when he had Robert Downey Jr.
That one was a really good interview.
Could you make Tropic Thunder today?
Nope.
He's like, you could. I mean, sure. It probably wouldn't go well, but you could.
Right. Actually, the last Rogan podcast was really, really fun to listen to. The guy was kind of boring. I was a little disappointed in that, but the last guest he had on was Travis Walton. Any thoughts of who that is? I know it's rolling around in your head. Who is Travis Walton?
Were they on a TV show called The Waltons?
Nope. Do you remember a movie a long time ago called Fire in the Sky?
Yeah.
The guy gets abducted. That's Travis Walton.
Oh.
He had him on.
Fire in the Sky.
But yeah, he kind of relayed, everything that happened type thing. He's quite a bit older now.
Oh, you mean the actual guy, not the actor?
Not the actor.
Oh, the actual guy.
The actual guy.
Oh, the actual guy. I thought I was talking about the actor.
Right. Nope.
No, the actual dude.
Yep, he got to...
I bet they had fun talking.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, talking about, spaceships and shit.
Well, on Tim's show last night, they had a guy... Did you watch it last night's show?
Maybe.
The Fortitude guy?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was like... Yeah, that sounds... I looked it up. For a family of 3, you have to have a down payment of $22,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then every 3 months, quarterly, is $250 plus a $750 annual fee.
Right.
Then that's just there, and then you have to pay to have your thing built.
Right.
Then pay for your food after that, and whatever, or how, I don't know if you eat there. I don't know how it works out.
I don't know. I mean,
because I know you're supposed to go and help make the stuff, farm, and
Mm-hmm.
deal with the cattle, with the livestock, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
they showed a picture of a guy standing guard, sentry,
Mm-hmm.
and a sentry
Right.
thing was like, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would roll my eyes more.
Not so much now.
There's no way we get to stuff like that. I didn't think we'd get to stuff to where we're at right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't think way back when Obama was first in office that anybody would ever be able to force somebody to buy something. To have the government actually tell you, mandate that you buy something goes against the Constitution.
Well, they've already done it with auto insurance.
Well, no, but you don't have to have a car.
Well, you don't have to have a car.
That's the argument there.
Uh-huh.
So they're not mandating that. I mean, they kind of are. But anyway,
if you want to have a car,
right? So because I never thought they would be able to get rid of that part or to circumvent that part of the Constitution. And so, of course, the argument at that time was, well, is this a tax? And then they somehow snuck it typed through, and I was like, wow. So now the government can tell you to buy something. Neato.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah. And it just keeps on, as we go along, little bitty, more and more things we lose.
Well, you just put up with more and more stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that kind of goes all the way back to when I keep on talking about stuff. It's like, what's your breaking point? But are you really going to break? Are you really going to do that? I mean, and if you break, then you probably should have broke a long time earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you finally do decide to break, because by then you'll be way out on your own with nobody else to help you.
Right.
And you'll just be swept under so fast. It's not even, a lot of people think, oh, well, this will happen or that's going to happen. It's like, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are people lined up for those jobs that you think that, come on, man. By the time they're trained and ready to go out, they will be proficient and good.
Mm-hmm.
Proficient and good. And frosty at the mouth for it. They'll just be itching for it.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I think what, like Tim says, and that Rukowski, whatever that guy is, Luke,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep saying it, and I keep talking to Laura about it, and it's, back in the 90s, all this stemmed from having to fight down the religious right, because the religious right would say something like, we think the movies you're making over there are lewd and disgusting, and, we're not going to pay for them. We're not going to go watch them.
Right.
They got all upset with them for using their buying dollar to, quote unquote, curb the industry. They said we don't want rated R movies, we want rated PG-13 movies. Mm-hmm. And so the industry curbed.
Well, yeah, the industry actually,
right?
the way that they did it also is they decided to police themselves, and that's why we have that rating system now.
Right. But but it came from them saying, we're not going to spend our money on your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere along the line, the whole conservative side of the thing and all these people that get all upset about stuff have forgotten, or they don't want to understand, or look, your dollar goes a long way
right
to curbing attitudes. much, right? So, how many people jumped off Twitter, right? Well, that hurt their bottom dollar.
Right.
And
not enough.
Not enough, but guess what? You leave it as an echo chamber, and then pretty much the people who want to bitch and moan are going to leave there to go somewhere else. And then they have nothing left.
Right. Well, that's the problem.
You're upset about mom and pop, and I understand we have a very serious problem right now with affording shit. You know, but we need to stop buying so much shit from Amazon.
Well, that's just it. I mean,
it's tough. I buy shit from Amazon all the time. I just said earlier we had a package coming.
This pandemic has actually made it better for them.
Oh, yeah.
Because the
it's taken all the mom and pop.
It's taken all the mom and pop competition away, and all that's left is the big boys. That and everybody was talking about we're just going to go to Parlor for our media and stuff, and they just closed it down.
Just closed it down.
It's like, holy crap. And so everybody's just kind of scratching their head going, okay, that plan didn't work.
Right, but if everybody literally canceled all the shipments from Amazon and didn't use Amazon,
right.
I know, but if 75 million people said, we're not using Amazon ever again, we're not paying for Amazon Prime, you know what they'd be like, oh, maybe you want to turn Parlor back on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Problem is I do use Amazon Prime.
So do I. Here's the number one culprit I think that people should probably turn off today. I still have it turned off. Disney Plus. Disney is a social engineering platform right now of unparalleled
Well, sometimes I think that
divisiveness.
all of these big boys are working together because
Google,
Disney, you name it. They
well, you would harken, like I said, you harken back to the 90s and the 80s, and all that was about right-wing Christian beliefs and puritanical Christians. And what you're seeing now is all left-wing puritanical ideologies. All, it's that ideology, and then people have gravitated to it as a religion, and so then they all spouts the religion.
Right.
But you have to be willing. We need to be willing to say, like I said with The Rock. I mean, nobody should be giving that man any money for a long time. Not until he gets 66% of his shit away. That really pissed me off.
What was funny is
I'm pissed. That I would like to sit down with him and just ask him about that.
Because I remember way back then, there was a time when there was only one telephone company, and there was a president that got involved, said, we should not have monopolies. There should be a blah, blah, blah fair, an open market. And he forced them to not be a monopoly anymore. And that was the last time that ever happened. No president since has ever, done that. That was Reagan, by the way.
Well, there's supposed to be, there are laws against monopolies, but we don't
You
understand.
can't tell me that Google is not a monopoly.
Oh, yeah. But you have to be able to...
I mean, I guess that you could say that, Google is also there's Yahoo and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada.
No, because they control and...
Right.
And, I mean, just look at how they did with Google Fiber here and around the country. They gave that for free.
Right.
That is what you call price gouging. That's pricing your competitor out of the business.
Right.
So, yeah, no, they are a monopoly, but I think where they get the hide is the same reason they get the hide from the censorship and all that stuff. Is it's new business. We don't understand exactly what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought that they were a little more ethical than they are. You know, they used to have the slogan "Do no evil," and now it's "Do a little better every day" or "Do something." It's no longer "Do no evil" because I think they understand what they're doing is not "quote unquote" good.
Right.
Censorship isn't good.
But there's got to be a point when companies get so big that and once again, I guess it's kind of our fault as Americans or whatever, because like there's so many products that I absolutely love, but they're part of a company that owns so much, like this is going to sound stupid, but like my favorite body wash soap or whatever is Dove, and that's owned by a company called Unilever. And if you look at their symbol, the little U that they have, has all these little bitty sub companies that are part of their logo. They own a crap ton of stuff, I mean, it's funny, because that what's that stupid video game, the zombie one, Resident Evil. They talk about the Umbrella Corporation, and that's really what everything is now. I mean, there is no mom and pop stuff left anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's even
there are, but it's so much more expensive. Like go down to the Dove. I always used last 10 years Old Spice body wash.
Right.
Well, I saw some of these ads on it. I bought some of that Dr. Squash.
Right.
Squash stuff. I love it. That's just expensive.
Yes.
I mean, I really like that stuff, but it's a lot of money for a bar of soap.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
right.
Unfortunately, what's happening is all the mom and pop stores are all going to be like high-end elite mom and pop stores because it's all catering to people. She was watching the Seven Johnsons with the little people, the Johnsons, the biggest little family or whatever. I think it's the Seven Johnsons. I think it's the Johnsons.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those reality shows. And the kid was making origami, this origami, right?
Mm-hmm.
To sell it. So he was making a piece of origami, the girls would make a little jewelry, and they would sell it together as a package or whatever. And he was doing a little live video explaining to all the fans what it was, And he's like, like $4 or $5 for one, whatever. It's like
$4 or $5 for a piece of paper.
You want me to pay $5 for a folded piece of paper?
Yep.
Where's the money that I have? And it's like, and then it dawns on me what money out there people must have.
Right.
And it's like,
well, it's all
it's just it's ridiculous.
And I mean, when these companies get so big, and this is also in like the hospital industry and stuff, and the pharmaceuticals, you get these big, huge companies that control everything, and they can set the price at whatever they want.
Mm-hmm. Well, it just makes you. It's like, man, they can buy that. How come people donate to us?
Right. Because like
we need a bigger place to live.
There's that TV show. I don't know if it's still on. That Adam Ruins Everything. You ever seen that? But he did this one.
I just saw him on his podcast.
All glasses made in America. Even though they have different names, you got Dolce & Gabbana or whatever.
Yeah.
They're all made by the same company in the same plants. The only difference is they slap a different label on them, And but the company that owns the umbrella company that owns all those is called Luxottica. And the CEO of Luxottica, they once asked him, how do you do your price models? I mean, how do you justify the prices that you're setting for these glasses, you know? And he's like, prices is whatever anybody is willing to pay.
Yeah. And that's what it should be to an extent. Because it's like us. We should be able to set the price for our book.
Well, it's funny, you know.
And as the consumer, I can say, no, I ain't gonna pay, or yeah, I'll pay that for that.
Right.
You know, and yeah, I learned about that a long time ago. I found that there was companies out there that just make pants or shoes,
right,
and stuff, and then you just slap your logo on them. And so you can start your own brand. You don't have to design anything.
Nope.
All you have to do is design a patch to be sewn in.
Yep.
Or a label to be sewn onto your clothes, and then you can pass it off as your own brand. Like you created it. You didn't do nothing but just put a patch on it. So yeah.
It's crazy though. I mean, the American dream, made in China.
The American dream. And there's I won't get into that. That I'll let Tim do that. Go over to Timcast IRL and watch him, and he'll explain to you.
Yeah.
We'll watch him rant a little bit, but no, we really have to start using our dollars. Because like The Rock, like I keep saying, you know, by him endorsing Biden and getting so many people excited about going out and voting for him and things like that, he pretty much so he's endorsing his 66% tax increase that he's looking at doing, and or 64%, and hopefully, for the love of all those holy and special, he doesn't actually do it. If he does do it, you can thank The Rock for that. And like I said, if he really believes in that man that way,
well, yeah,
then put up and get rid of 64% of your shit.
Well,
Just do
funny,
it.
Though,
Liquidate it and give it to a charities. And let's see you do it. Come on.
This the problem with politics is that, you know, it's always been a popularity contest. And what was funny about this particular race was it was still a popularity contest, but it was who we hated the least. And
well,
there was way too many people that hated Trump. Trump derangement syndrome is real, and you know they absolutely despise the guy for God, I don't know why, really. I mean,
because they were told to.
And so then he
because there are a lot of dumb people in the world.
And so they voted for a guy that literally did zero campaigning at all.
Yeah. He's just going to do not what that guy did.
Because if you think about it,
actually, you don't know what he plans to do. Like I said, he said he was going to raise your taxes to 64%, and people like 50 Cent said, "Oh, hell no!"
Right.
And then everybody turned on him, saying that he was some Uncle Tom, some white supremacist. And he's like, "What the?"
Right.
You know, it's like, just because I don't want to pay 64% in taxes.
Right.
He's like, I worked hard for this. I got shot how many times? I survived it. I can now let my kids go to Ivy League schools, and they can become doctors and lawyers, and the next set of doctors and lawyers, and now I'm somehow
the bad guy.
The bad guy, you know, because I don't want to pay 64% of my taxes to somebody. Screw you. You know, so like I said, any of those people, pony up. Come on. Give up your shit and donate it to a charity. You can donate to the government if you want, but donate to a government to a bunch of charities. Spread it out. Just give up 64% of your shit. Do it. It's because you're stupid.
You should really learn how to express yourself. If you hold all this stuff in, you might explode.
I know, that's the problem, right? Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Anyway, how many? That's got to be 3 hours, right?
2:45.
Pretty close.
Pretty close,
Not bad.
And one high from Torn. You know, without my glasses on, I keep seeing Tron.
You got Tron on your brain.
Well, it's Torn, so Torn.
Right.
You just flip the R and O and
right.
Got Tron. But
the brain sees what it wants.
I must have saw that too late. He must have already took off, or her. Or, I don't know. It could be a her. Sorry if I made that wrong.
Yeah. If you've misgendered.
No, I don't. I'm not really particularly care if I'm misgendered. If I just assumed
right.
that you were a guy. Yeah, I'm bad that way. But sheesh. Well, I hope you enjoyed the drawing.
Yeah, I think that one turned out really good.
It turned out okay. It's quick, simple. I kind of liked it. I definitely changed her a lot.
Yep.
But I like that character.
She's not naked anymore.
Well, you can't draw them naked on the thing.
Right.
Because the rules, and so it just makes it easier.
So you can't, for like YouTube or anything, you can't have naked drawings?
YouTube.
That's retarded.
So now I see artists talk about it. No, but then I see artists post stuff. But it's more like a figure drawing, like figure drawing class. I've seen them post pictures like that. But I never seen anybody do a live drawing and then actually draw privates.
Well,
I mean, you draw the boob, but without putting nipple on.
Weird.
But I don't ever see anybody really like. Actually, well, somebody was doing it on Twitch. They actually were drawing it, but it was like a side view, so there was a tiny bit of a nipple, but not like. I don't know. Maybe they can. I don't know. Supposedly you weren't supposed to be able to do it, but it's not that big a deal whether I can do it or not. I don't really care.
What's funny is
because this allowed me to just have a concept to work from instead of just fumbling around. Like I came up the other night to draw, and then I just sit here going, "What if I draw?" And then I don't know what to draw.
Do you remember the Batman with George Clooney?
Mm-hmm.
Where they actually put nipples on the.
Yeah, they did that with Val Kilmer too, I think, didn't they?
No, it was
Was it Clooney?
It was the Clooney one.
It was a Clooney that had the nipples.
Clooney, because they had Batman and Robin, and what's funny is they also had Batgirl, but hers didn't have nipples on her outfit. I don't get it.
I do.
And if you're going to have nipples on everybody's clothes, you might as well have it on hers too.
That's Lisa Silverstone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Back when she was a big star.
Yeah.
And not an alcoholic. I don't know if that's true. I don't think so. I don't know. But,
Alright. Well,
Alright. Like, subscribe,
burnoutstudios.com.
share. Yeah, I'll put this up on YouTube.
Yeah, burnoutstudios.com. And then
Yeah, Burnout. I should put a banner up here. Burnout Studios.
we need to
I should put it up here at the top. Burnout Studios. Like I had the Shatteredtime.
mm-hmm.
I can put it down I can put up there. So I have when I do my jam spoon. Well,
Right.
actually, I had it, but I think I got rid of it. I got rid of it because I just yeah. Or maybe. Yeah, well, it's supposed to go right there, but nah, I got rid of it. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
one.